Hi there, it's Ron Gula from Gula Tech Adventures, and today I'm going to share information on how to do seed funding for startups. Now, at Gula Tech Adventures, we've invested in a wide variety of seed companies. I was running Tenable. We started out as a seed company, so a lot of what I'm going to talk about is from my history working with seed companies, how they found us, and how I recommend to people they should go find investors as well. So the first thing I like to tell people before they reach out on a journey to raise VC is, do they need it? I'm recording this in July of 2023. A lot of companies have moved to a cash flow positive profile, which means they might be able to grow their company organically for years on end while still supporting their customers. No need to raise. If you can do that, I suggest you do that. I've done that several times in my career and it's always turned out great. But if you are going to go out and a raise, you need to be aware that it's going to take time, and not only time, disruption. You are going to not only have to support your customers and your company, but you're going to then have to start talking to potential investors. Before you head out, I really believe that your pitch should be a good pitch and a solid pitch. And we push out the 5-slide pitch deck concept. 5 questions to really describe what your company does and what you're asking of that investor. You should make sure this information is on your website as well. You should also have a calendar sense. What are you going to do if you don't raise a certain amount of money by a certain amount of time? What's your plan B? You can't assume that your fundraise is going to be quick, and you can't assume that it's going to just go on forever, because now you're doing 3 things, right? Your investors, your company, and your customers. So where do you start? If you have no idea how to find a potential investor, I mean, you could Google, you could do things. I like to tell people, start with your home field advantage. Now, there's a lot of different parts of the United States here, but what I tell people is take the state you're in, the county you're in, the university you're nearby, or if you're in like Silicon Valley or greater New York City, or where I'm at in the Maryland DC metro area. Those are all kind of things you can Google. And then you attach words like incubator, accelerator, innovation, and so on. Now, when I Googled this for where I live in Howard County, Maryland, I instantly saw all the different university and economic government programs that are here. And these organizations are a really, really good place to start to not only find about programs for raising money, perhaps from the state or the county, but also from local venture capital funds. Many of these organizations have events where you can go and meet other founders, other potential investors, and other agencies that might be able to help you. Some of these events include pitch meetings where you can actually get up, pitch your company in front of an audience full of investors. We attend many of these things. Some of these are virtual now that we've gone through COVID. But many organizations, including venture capital funds, will do these pitch competitions. Now, once you start attending these things, you're going to meet a lot of different investors. You're going to meet the imaginary, billionaire one-time investor who's going to fund you for the rest of your life, or you might meet, a clone of, Silicon Valley execs here who can do it. But the reality is there's all different types of investors out there. When you meet an investor, you really need to do your homework. And I tell people they need to think about 3 things when they're meeting a potential investment fund. So the first thing is, what kind of check sizes do they write? Maybe some investors want to start with a $10 million, $15 million check. Maybe they want to have at least $1 million ARR for the company. Maybe they only focus on startups. You need to find an investment firm who's going to match what you're trying to fundraise. Now, it's possible you went out to raise $5 million and you really are doing a seed run. You should be asking for $500,000 to $1 million and so on. But you have to keep this in mind when you talk to them. The second thing is, does the investor that you're looking at, do they have a competitor? If you make pink cotton candy and they've got a pink cotton candy company on their website, you probably don't want to do it. You might not even want to do it if they have a green cotton candy website. We see this in cybersecurity all the time, where we get approached at Gula Tech Adventures to invest in a startup, and we've got 2 competitors, not even just like different mousetraps doing the same kind of detection of hackers, but literally exact types of go-to-markets and whatnot. So you save yourself a meeting and don't do that, because 1, you might be giving up some intellectual property when you talk to them. And 2, you might, that could actually hurt you long term. Now, the last thing is the most important thing when you talk to a fund. Do they have a culture that matches your values? Maybe your culture, maybe you're former military, maybe you've got a very diverse background, maybe you're really focused on serving the needs of small business. You want to have a venture capital fund where those values of your company and your culture are reflected in that. And a lot of venture companies that we work with, they actually talk about their culture and what their values are up front. So you should be able to see that based on what's important to you. Now, another thing though is you also want to make sure that when you talk to a venture capital person, you're not going to bring on this guy to your board or your company. And this is a tough one to swallow, because a lot of times if a venture capital fund invests money in a company and you don't turn around, they do become this guy. And, usually the venture capital fund has a lot more experience when it comes to design patterns they've seen or patterns they've seen of companies that are failing or succeeding. So one way you can get around this is you can ask for references. You can look for companies that are on a website that maybe aren't there anymore, and you can talk to those founders and see what's happened there. But you do want to make sure that when you're working with a potential venture capital company, you're kind of getting married to them, and you really should do some more background on that. Now, keep in mind, we've done a couple other videos here on the relationship of the venture fund to the founder. We did a whole video on this. There's myths of venture capital, whatnot. But you should think about it this way: if you are a vendor and you make a product, the venture capital, you're their product, right? They're investing other people's money so that they can get a return based on your success, but they're there to help you for that. So there's a lot of myths and things like that we go into here, and you should keep that in mind when you're picking your fund as well. All right, so now you've got your meetings, you're doing your pitch. What do we want to avoid? Well, you want to avoid a wide variety of pitfalls, right? You want to avoid basically, wasting time talking about certain things like it's your first meeting. You really don't want to do 10 to 15 minutes of introductions with, for an hour's worth of meeting. You also don't really want to educate them about the market because they're probably investors in this market. And you really don't want to be too overly technical and give away too much information. This is something that can kill deals pretty easily. We did a whole nother video on this called pitch mistakes. But let's assume your pitch goes great, and now you're getting to the answer of yes or no. Well, regardless of what they tell you, yes or no, you should have a set of asks, right? No matter what they say, whether we loved you, we loved your pitch, we loved your company, we loved your tech, we loved the founders, we loved your co-founder. If the answer is no, the question is, what should your response be, right? Typically, it's not going to be, what thing could I change that would make you want to invest? There's probably going to be one or two things that cause them to not want to invest. Now, most funds have an investment committee where they have to debate about this. You can't really ask them, well, who on the committee, was for us or against us? How close was it? Sometimes these funds will give you that kind of feedback, but sometimes the feedback is a bit more that you could have qualified it up front. We have a competing product. We think your go-to-market competes with somebody else. We don't think your market's big enough. We think it's niche. We don't think customers like that. Negative feedback can be really, really useful to incorporate into your pitch. Now, I've seen a lot of companies who get this feedback and they pivot. We've got a whole nother video on pivoting and doing that. But if you are having problems selling your customers to customers and you're having problems raising, there's a decent chance that something is aligned there where you need to modify what you're doing in order to create a successful company. And of course, if the answer is yes, then you really need to think about, do you want these people working with you? Not necessarily day in, day out, but they are going to be involved in your business. They're going to affect your culture, hopefully for the positive, and it's a good thing. All right, so if this video was fun, please subscribe to the Gula Tech Adventures YouTube channel. We got two playlists here. One is all about cybersecurity, and one is all about VC 101. I appreciate you watching. You can check us out at gula.tech. I'm Ron Gula. Thanks again.